Right, this is Dolores Cannon again with the Metaphysical Hour. And I'm really glad to be back live tonight. I want to tell everyone last week why I didn't do the show. We had a terrible ice storm that went through Arkansas. You probably saw on the news it went through Arkansas, then it ended up in Kentucky. And they said it's the worst ice storm to ever hit northwest Arkansas. But we had trees down, uprooted on houses, and limbs all over the place. You couldn't even drive down the highways or the roads. They were just completely covered with downed limbs. And, of course, the power went out. And we were out of electricity for 8 days, and we just got it back a day or so ago. So we're really glad for that. That's why I couldn't do the show last week. Well, you know, the weather has been getting continually stranger. We don't know what to expect next. But you don't miss it until you don't have it. So now it's back on, and we can be warm again. All I had was a fireplace to keep us warm during all of that. So anyway, we're back on the air now live, and I've got a very special guest tonight. His name is Anthony Miles. And he's the director of the movie documentary Fastwalkers. And we're going to be talking about UFOs and things like that tonight. Let me give out the toll-free number before I bring him on. If anyone wants to call in and ask questions to Mr. Miles, the number is 877-876-5227. 877-876-5227. Okay, are you there, Anthony?
Yes, Dolores, I'm right here.
Okay. But, you know, one thing I do want to tell people, the movie, you said to call it a movie documentary?
Yeah.
A film documentary or what?
Yeah, it's a feature-length documentary. When we say feature-length, we mean like a feature-length movie. And,
okay. One thing I want to tell people, the name is unusual. When I first heard it, I didn't know what it meant. Fastwalkers. But I believe you said that is the government's code name for UFOs. Is that correct?
You know, the term Fastwalkers, from what I understand, is from the classification that NORAD gives objects that come into the Earth's atmosphere in the United States airspace.
Oh, because I'd never heard that term before, and that's why I thought it was rather unusual.
Mm-hmm.
But you've done several films, but this one was Fastwalkers, and that's the website that you have. It's called that, too.
Yeah, that's right. Fastwalkers.com is where it's at. And, you know, you're in our movie, and that was sure an enlightening experience for me. One of the... Are
you there?
Yeah.
Well, I thought you got cut off. Well, yeah, I was.
That.
And, you know, they sent me the copy and I was watching it, and I was thinking, where in the world did I film that? I don't even remember. But I was really proud to be in the film. But before we get going on what the film's about, Anthony, let's tell everybody about yourself, about your background. You know, how did you get into this whole thing?
Well, I'll give you the short story first, and then if you want to go into deeper background, I'll give you that as well.
Okay.
My parents had an advertising agency, my father and my mother, and I was always interested in motion pictures and video and those kind of things. And so they did some video work on the low-end quality, I would say. And that intrigued me, and so I got interested in the family business and got interested in the video side and kind of grew and developed those skills and the quality of our equipment and those kind of things so that we could do very much greater quality productions. And that's kind of how that developed. My personal background, if you're interested in that at all, I know. I'm doing a lot of filming for documentaries, and
a lot of them are just with one little camera, and I think they're very low quality. I don't know if they're ever going to sell or not. So everybody out there is trying to make things. But I think what you did is very well done. It's a high-quality movie.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the credit that you're giving me. The truth is that it was...
You haven't been you or your group.
Yeah, it was definitely a group effort. You know, I can't take all the credit. My father, Robert Miles, was one of the producers and one of the writers. Bruce Jessup was also a producer, and he's in Germany. And we had some other help. We had another editor, that was Stoyan Shereshirov. He was in Germany at the time. He's a Bulgarian gentleman. And we had some animation assistants out of Canada. And so it was really kind of a multi-international team project. And that was one of the things that excited me about it, is that we could put aside our borders and our differences and make a film that can kind of connect with the world and bring the UFO information or extraterrestrial information to the world in a way that would kind of bring down some of those barriers.
Well, that's one thing that I liked about the way you did it. You know, I speak at UFO conferences all over the world, and there's too many speakers, and the focus is on negativity. And I don't really like that, because in my work I've found them to be positive. And I don't like the way they try to scare people and bring in the negativity. And they're always telling me, the other speakers are saying, oh, you're not finding the truth because you're not finding the evil in the horror. And I said, that's because it's not there. So that's why I really liked the way you focused on the positive.
Yeah, that was important to us. We didn't want to create any walls unnecessarily, and we wanted to kind of bring down the barrier of information exchange or of education. So we wanted to present the information with a little bit of a historical slant in the beginning, and then bring it up to more of a modern or somewhat modern approach, and then take it into kind of where we thought it might be going in the future with more of a spiritual aspect and how we connect with if you want to call them extraterrestrials or, you know, or our brothers or however you classify them.
I think that's where the focus should be, really.
Yeah. I know that
you did tell me on the phone yesterday that your father had an experience, and that was one of the reasons you got interested in UFOs. Was that what it was?
You know, that's the personal story that I was going to tell if you wanted me to.
Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing it.
Okay, well, it's kind of a funny story for me now, and as a child, it was kind of something that I rebelled against a little bit. I'll just start out by saying that. My dad wrote a movie in 1970-71 and actually sold it to Columbia Pictures, a motion picture script. And that was the Safe Space motion picture. And that was before Star Wars and before Star Trek and all that kind of thing. And it was really a progressive science fiction idea at that time. And he had an experience that kind of led him down that path before that script process or before I was ever born. From my understanding, he actually was contacted by extraterrestrials from Jupiter, the planet Jupiter in our system, and was taken on a spacecraft and was given a tour and a briefing and showed kind of what our future could hold if we weren't careful, that kind of a thing. And honestly, I don't know the full depth of his experience, but that's the basis for it. And he did say, and this is the part that involves me particularly, that before I was ever born, they told him that he was going to have a son, and what's the name me, and that kind of thing. And for people who don't know, my full name is Anthony Tribune Miles, and the middle name being Tribune, the first name being Anthony. When you put that name together, and this is the weird part about it when it comes about with a program like Fastwalkers, that my name actually means carrier of the truth, champion of the people.
Oh, okay.
So I've been told. That's the way it was told to me. So
okay. But was there anything else about the story? the episode that your father had that he told you about? Anything else that happened on it?
You know, trying to piece together somebody's experience, and this is part of the wonderful experience I've had in making Fastwalkers, is how do you make heads or tails of somebody's UFO experience if you haven't actually had a UFO experience yourself, or if you haven't made that leap mentally? And when I've talked to him about it, he shared with me that, and when he's talked to people, that literally, and this is hard to grasp, that he was on his boat in the harbor in Hawaii, and then he was either transported or something to LaGuardia Airport in New York, and then got on a craft actually at the airport, and then went from there. And his best estimations are that was kind of a dimensional jump to where, obviously in our reality here, that wouldn't be possible, or as we think of it, it wouldn't be possible. But in another dimension and another reality with the assistance of those beings, that kind of an experience might actually be possible. And that's pretty much the most I know of it. He told me that he thought the planet was beautiful, and that the energy of the beings was just incredible, and the vibration just, the energy felt so good that, that it was very positive.
Uh-huh. Well, I've talked about my books on UFOs on this show many times, and I've done a lot of work with dimensions travel and things like that, so I can believe what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And they do have the ability to go back and forth between dimensions.
Yeah.
I've never heard of one who remembered doing it, because usually they may block the memory out afterwards.
Yeah. I was watching your interview today, actually, from the original Fastwalkers taping, because I wanted to have a little bit of background and recall and have that fresh in my memory, kind of your perspective. And it was so interesting to me to listen about your work and the philosophy. As I don't consider myself a researcher per se, but I do consider myself somebody who's able to sit down and talk with and potentially bring some of the information to the public and connect with the researchers in a way maybe that would allow the public to get that information and actually be able to assimilate it in a way that would make sense and not put them off to the information.
Yeah. That is the hard part, because I've been investigating it for over 20 years now. Mm-hmm. And, in the beginning, I didn't know anything about it. It was all new, and, nobody knew anything back then. It was back when Whitley Strieber wrote the book Communion and kind of opened up the Pandora's box, so to speak.
Sure.
So I had to start out with no information. But really, it's amazing what you can uncover, because I've investigated the crop circles, and all of my work is, I'm always looking for lost knowledge, is what I call it. But you mentioned that they showed your father the future. Was it what we would do, what would happen to the world if we don't do something, or what was it they showed him?
I can't really go into depths in that, because he and I have really never had, and this is probably very sad actually, he and I have never really had an in-depth conversation on that. And, I've, as a personal aside or a personal issue, and this is something I'm trying to explore myself in this whole journey, if you will, into, more of a paranormal realm, is to come to grips with, the reality of what's going on out there. So I don't have a lot of information on that. He does in his movie script and book, in his Safe Space script, he does allude to some of the ideas, I believe, of possible, planet destruction or something like that, but that's certainly not something that's set in stone at all. But if we went the ways that we were going and trashing and devastating the planet, especially at that time, I think that there's a great focus now in our world where so many more people are aware of and are interested in taking care of the planet versus, when people had no idea, I don't think, even in the early, in the 60s and the 70s.
Yeah, that's the information I've been getting, and I've been lecturing on that too, is that they want this information to get out so that we can change the future that they saw, because we were really headed down the wrong path.
Sure.
But what I'm getting is that there are enough people now who are aware of these things that we're beginning to turn it around and turn the corner.
Yeah.
Well, the movie script that your father did, was it ever produced?
The interesting thing about the original Safe Space story is that it was actually green-lighted by Columbia Pictures, who at that time was a major studio, who I believe is Sony now. But they had an Academy Award-winning writer working on that project as a part of the production team to do the rewrites with my dad. And, I guess they went around and around for about a year, but they never really could get the project going. At that time, the science fiction genre and an idea of this scale and scope was just such a large production that I think that they weren't able to completely move it forward. That's hard to imagine today with all the modern special effects and things that we have, but at that time, I think the challenge of doing that kind of thing was very difficult. So
I remember they said when Star Wars was first, they proposed that, they didn't think it would go either.
Yeah.
And some of the actress they wanted to play it, she thought it would just be kind of like a hokey science fiction, but it was the special effects is what really made that.
Yeah.
And it opened up a whole new world out there.
You bet.
He was ahead of his time.
Absolutely. And, my dad has been ahead of his time all of my life, and it's caused a little bit of turmoil for him to be, as many brilliant people being ahead of their time, they don't really fit, the era of their day.
It waits everybody else to catch up.
Yep.
That's why it took 9 years for me to get my first book published, because it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
They didn't even have New Age bookstores back when I was writing in the beginning. So,
yep.
So, that's the problem. You have to wait till the rest of the world catches up with you.
Yeah.
So, anyway, and was that where your interest in UFOs began?
Well, I'll be honest with you, and this is probably not going to sound very popular, but my interest, I was really never interested in UFOs. I was more, I don't want to say put off by it, but because this was my dad's thing and it was so far out, and I always lived a life where we moved around a lot, and I was always looking for acceptance, the idea of UFOs and extraterrestrials was never an issue to me, but I really did want to fit in, so I never really pursued anything of that nature. I was more afraid of the consequences.
You were rather embarrassed by him, I guess.
When I was younger, I was embarrassed by that idea. But as I've grown and I've become more educated, and certainly in this process with Fastwalkers, my viewpoint has shifted dramatically. One of the things that I'll say is that when we first, we interviewed you at the International UFO Congress, I think in 2006, I believe, or maybe possibly 2005.
I couldn't remember where it was, because I do a lot of interviews and I never even hear of anything ever coming of them,
Yeah.
That was back then. Okay.
Yeah. In that process, we had the opportunity to interview literally the top people in the field. I think we have 35 of the world's top experts on ufology in the Fastwalkers movie. And we didn't use everybody that we were able to interview. So for me to be able to sit down one-on-one with these people, as I got to sit down with you, and get kind of a first-hand information dump, and to gather the knowledge from the top people in the field and hear that really changed my perspective. I thought I was going to go to a UFO convention and it was going to be a bunch of crazy people walking around. I had no frame of reference. And the opposite was true. I mean, all of these people, and I don't want to say everybody, but most of these people were far more educated than I am, much smarter, I would say, than I am, and, really took this field very, very seriously. And to share the information.
Yeah, I've been doing it so long. I know there are some nuts out there. There are some crazy people. But I've been working with Bob Brown. I think I started the first conference I did with him was about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And he has always brought really top people from everywhere. And his conference goes on for a week. So he has all these speakers, and so you had a good opportunity to be right there where they're all in one spot.
It was an incredible opportunity, and it, even now, the gravity of it, if you really think about the opportunity to sit down with all those people and listen to them directly firsthand, it really was incredibly opening. The experience was very, very, very opening, and it helped me overcome some of my own issues in the process of creating the film.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, I've been doing this for so long. I've been on the lecture circuit with the UFOs for at least 20 years. Mm-hmm. And during that time, I get to hear a lot of the same speakers again and again and again. So there are some out there who I say are the fakes, are the wannabes. They want to be on this. But they would contradict themselves when I would hear them again. But those kind of people don't last very long in the lecture circuit. After a while, people catch on that there's none really not telling the truth. They're not accurate about it. They're not truthful. So they kind of fade away after a few years, and then they drop off. But that's what I've noticed, and we begin to tell the real ones from the ones that are just, they want to be onto this for whatever reason.
You bet.
You probably found the same thing, though.
Definitely. In my limited experience overshooting on Fastwalkers for 2 weeks of actual interview photography, I'm really surprised to say that probably almost everybody that we interviewed seemed very, very intelligent, very down to earth, very. Nobody really seemed like they were out to pull one over on anyone. There was, maybe there was one or two that, we talked to that it didn't resonate, the way that I would like it to. But, I can't really say, if it wasn't, I don't want to say that there was any that were not, good interviews. Yeah. Because they're all good.
But, if you do it enough, you begin to know when it's not the truth. It doesn't feel right anyway.
You bet. I tell you, when we sat down with Stephen Greer, with Robert Dean, with Stanton Friedman, Wendell Stevens, when we talk to those guys, man, there is no question that when you're talking to them, that what they are telling you is absolutely their reality, and that is truth.
That's what I mean. But they have been around forever, just like I have. Those are the ones. It has to do with the staying power, I think. And what they're talking about has to have validity to it.
Yeah. One of our goals for Fastwalkers was to really make a movie that would bridge the gap. That's why it's not just a bunch of, it's not completely loaded with, UFO picture after UFO picture. We've got, quite a bit of footage in there and pictures and those kind of things, but we really wanted to produce something that was intelligent, that would resonate well, that would come across well, and that would ideally bridge the gap between, kind of this UFO community and mainstream, if you will. And that's one of the reasons we tried to shoot the thing in high definition and have the best production quality we could afford. But I really think that those people came across so well that...
Oh, yes. That's why I said the photography was really very, very good.
Thank you. I'm actually really sorry.
How did you get the idea to make this movie?
The actual... Sure. The actual...
go ahead.
The actual project was started by my father, Robert, and by Bruce Jessup, which were the executive producer and the producer of the project. And I had the technical knowledge and the equipment to physically produce it, and they had kind of the drive and the inspiration and the background. My dad with his experience and Bruce Jessup, the other producer, he's got literally, I think he's been researching and investigating the field for probably over 20 years as well, just on his own and connecting with people and those kind of things, kind of behind the scenes. So they both were very, very interested. They had become friends and connected, like-minded individuals that way, and really wanted to move forward with a project that would get out there and ideally help enlighten the public. Not just the UFO community, but really be something that could bridge the gap to the public.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure we attained that goal, but
I think you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
But that's one thing I did, like I said, I did like that you didn't focus on the negativity. But you just had the idea to do this and then do the interviews and put it together, or did you have a script or a plan on how you were going to organize it?
Sure. We did have a script. My dad wrote the initial script, and then myself and I believe Bruce Jessup had some input on the script. Bruce from kind of a what he thought would have impact and would be interesting to the audience, and I had input to it in terms of what I thought would work better for video and for documentary from a technical perspective. So really, my dad, Robert Miles, spearheaded it. You know, it's always been his dream with his Safe Space project, and Safe Space is really a lot more than just a movie or a documentary or those kind of things. It's a concept. You know, the Safe Space premise or idea really encompasses, you know, the idea that we can be a community that lives more in harmony together, which reminds me of when I was watching your interview today to talk about the ideals that the extraterrestrials live by, and that they would have for us live by, more of a nonviolent culture that actually works together instead of warring and those kind of ideas, and living more of a green, what we call green today, living more of a lifestyle that's non-destructive to the planet and to the population, and living with energy sources and food sources that are healthier for us and for the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and I think that is the goal. That, you know, we got away from it after, you know, we just all went toward the negativity, and they want us to get back to that because otherwise the world is in for, it's just going to be a mess the way it's going with the wars and what we're doing to the environment and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely want us to turn it around.
Yeah. So how do we do it, Dolores?
I know, that's the thing. One thing is you have to have the people interested. But I think more and more people are beginning to turn around to this.
Sure.
But I know when you began putting all these bits and pieces together, that's a lot of work, isn't it, to get it in, you know, to make it fit and to make sense out of it.
You know, the editing process on Fastwalkers was very daunting and very challenging. At that time, the technology that we had for editing wasn't as good as it is today. We had 50 hours of material, roughly, to go through, maybe more than that, to find the pieces, to put it together in a way that we thought would, you know, resonate with people and not push away, not push too hard with the information either for an audience that was potentially not somebody who was already into the field, but to really make a piece that would appeal to more of a mass audience and enlighten people at least enough to look into it greater or deeper. One of the, you know, like I said, I was watching your interview today, and I'm really sorry we didn't get to use more of your information because it was so good. Your interview was so good. The way that you talked about the different races of beings, you know, their motives and what that means to us, how they've always been there helping us from the beginning, and those kind of things, and those ideas, I think would be so wonderful to hear. But you know, with a movie, you got about 90 minutes or so, and then you got to cut it off. You know, so that was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, I know, because you know, like when I'm doing these filming for documentaries, you can film for hours, and maybe they take 10, 15 minutes if you're lucky. They'll take that much.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean. It's just pick and choose.
Yep.
But, you know, one thing I like, too, in the films is that you had the priest from Italy.
Oh, yeah.
That's where Paula Harris was doing the translation.
Yep. I tell you.
That was really good because that brought in the the spiritual aspect to show that there are priests. They're not all against all of this, and how it is connected to God. So there isn't any contradiction.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
remember exactly what it said, but I said that was very important to put that aspect in there.
Yeah, we connected with Paula Harris, and we were very fortunate that she had helped bring in Monsignor Corrado Balducci from Italy, the Catholic priest that you spoke of, to the X conference that same year, and we were able to interview him with Paula. And I tell you, I don't think I've ever been in a room with somebody who exuded such wonderful energy. I mean, this man was definitely, I believe he was of spirit, and that, God really did work through him. He was so warm, so sincere, and, for him to share that message that, our brothers are out there, and they are looking down, and literally he said basically what you were saying in part of your interview that we didn't use, and he was saying that, we have more of a propensity towards sin or towards war or hurting each other than the extraterrestrials do, and they want for us to evolve as they are, and really they want us to become higher, I guess, help me out, but so that we're more peace-like and loving, possibly, and less concerned and consumed with, war and the things that go with, power and control.
Yeah. But I was trying to remember some other bits and pieces of the movie because it's been a month ago that I watched it, but I do remember the priest. Mm-hmm. And I know all the people on there. I've known at one time or another.
You bet.
But I was really put together very well. Oh, I do want to mention, at the end of this month, Bob Brown is having the UFO conference out there in Laughlin.
That's right.
I don't remember what number it is now, but he has this every year. Are you going to be there again?
I probably am not going to be able to get out there this time to the International UFO Congress. I'm going to be I'm so blessed. I'm going to be having a baby here in about the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I think
yes, you said that in the email. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, a little boy is going to come into our world. And
do you have any other children?
Not yet. Nope. He's our first one.
This is the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, the first one is always the special one. So that's right. You're going to be busy at the end of the month.
That's exactly right. Probably more so than I know.
Oh, you don't know the half of it. You just wait and see.
Yeah.
But anyway, I do think he said after the movie came out, it was premiered in certain places, wasn't it?
That's right. We had the opportunity to actually show the Fastwalkers film in a movie theater on the big screen and to share it with an audience, a sold-out audience. And the first premiere was in Sholo, Arizona, up where my father actually resides. And we had a wonderful group up there that helped us present the movie in a digital form in the theater in high definition. And it showed beautifully, and we were so excited. And, the response was great. And it actually ran in that theater for a week or two, and I think outpaced, I think we were number 2 or number 3 for about 2 weeks up there over some of the bigger Hollywood movies. So there really was an interest from people to see the film, and that was really refreshing to see that, an audience in a rural community was interested in seeing this type of information.
Well, yeah, but that's the way they started out with What to Believe. They started showing it like that, and they had sellout crowds, and everybody thought, well, nobody's going to want to see a metaphysical movie. Yeah. So that's the only way to do it, and it shows there's an interest when you can have a sellout crowd. Yeah, and
one of the things that we tried to do is really make it a positive experience for the audience. We were able to work with some of the people who were in the film to come out for the premiere. I think we had Charles Hall there for either the first or the second premiere, because we did a premiere in Phoenix and a premiere in Sholo. And the one in Phoenix was about a month and a half later, I believe. And we were very fortunate to have Charles Hall, Robert Dean came out, Wendell Stevens came out to the premiere, Al Tolman came out. He's the gentleman that provided us with the telescopic footage of the UFO in front of the moon that's in the movie.
Uh-huh.
And I think we had a couple of other people there, too. And people got to meet those guys and, firsthand. People who wouldn't go to a UFO conference, they got to meet these guys and talk to them and really see how legitimate and down-to-earth these people are. And so that was great.
Yes, I know. Well, Wendell Stephen is an old friend of mine. I've known him, I guess, 25 years.
Yeah.
And I've had those people on my radio show, so the people listening in know about him. But Wendell is really unique because he has the largest UFO picture collection in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are always using those, for different things, too.
You bet.
But, people like that, that's what I mean, their staying power. They've been in it so long that it shows their dedication to all of this.
You bet.
Are you going to do any more, showings in theaters?
It's hard to say. We did also show the film in Canada. Victor Vigiani helped us do a premiere up in Canada, and Paul Hellyer was there as well at the presentation. My dad did that one up there. It's been showed at the International UFO Conference. We actually won 2 EB awards, their International Film Festival awards, one for Best Soundtrack and one for the People's Choice Award, I believe, for the film the year that it was screened there, and that kind of thing. But at this time, we don't really have any other plans to show the film because it does take quite a bit of resources to take the film around and to promote it and those kind of things and areas. We would love for it to be shown more. I mean, as a team and as a group, we would love to get it out there. We'd love to get it into the theaters, but our resources are limited. We did the film on a lower budget, and everybody pitched in and really put in a lot of work and effort. But, the resources to market a film, to compete against a mainstream Hollywood movie who spends $8, $10, $20 million on prints and advertising, you hardly get people to hear who you are if you're lucky,
Yeah, I can see what you mean. That makes a big difference. Yeah. Oh, well, I guess it'd be just as difficult to get it on TV, too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it probably would, and we're very interested in that as well, and we're actually looking for people to take the film to TV. We would love to see it on the Discovery Channel or something like that, or the History Channel, one of those places. Our movie, though, is formatted in a way that it's a little long probably for television, or it would have to be broken up into probably 2-part episodes or something. Because it's more of a movie, it's not really a television format, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I think there are people out there who would be interested in this because you see this type of show on those programs all the time.
Yeah, and the quality of those programs has gotten so much better, and there's so much good information in them that it's just wonderful to see that happening now. The change in our media a little bit, starting to have more of that information. And, I think that
it's very needed right now.
Mm-hmm. And if we could get, people...
You did say after this one you did make another film, did you?
When we talked about the difficulty in editing, and we had 50 hours of interviews, of these fantastic interviews, what we have done is we've created another product called Fastwalkers Open Files. And basically that Open Files is basically the full interviews. If we may have used 5 or 10 minutes of somebody's interview in the Fastwalkers movie, we're taking those interviews in their entirety basically and making those available. We're putting 3 interviews on a disc. Usually it's about 2.5 hours of material, and we're going to try to open up our library of information and make that available to people who are interested in it.
Okay. Is that one finished?
We have 2 of the volumes now. We have Fastwalkers Open Files Volume 1, and that has Jim Mars, Jerry Pippin, and Alfred Lambermont Weber, who's the father of exopolitics. And they're in the first volume. And then in the second volume, and these are available, we have Stephen Greer, Commander Graham Bethune, and Len Horowitz. And that's
okay. Yeah, I knew Grant also, but he died a couple of years ago, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And we sure appreciate his contribution to Fastwalkers. To hear firsthand.
Yeah, because he gave me some of the pictures that he had taken, and I was using those in some of my lectures. So, but he was an older man when I knew him.
Yep.
So you've got footage there that cannot be replaced.
Yeah, that's right. He was very gracious to take the time and to sit in and share his experience with us. One of the experiences he talks about is literally he was a pilot in the Navy. I believe it was the Navy, and he was out in the middle of the ocean, and a UFO actually came up out of the water. A flying saucer actually came out of the water, and he described a kind of a telepathic knowing of the size of it and those kind of things, and just a feeling of understanding of what the craft was and that was meant to be for him at that time. And to hear from somebody who's that caliber and to have them share that direct experience was, it was really a blessing, especially for me.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to understand. I'm very interested in understanding, the phenomenon and the metaphysical aspects of it and our spiritual components. One of the things that I'm super interested in, and when I was listening to you, is trying to understand our spiritual components, how that works, and how we relate, and how we can be more connected with the universe and those types of things, and that reality and our own human power and our own human challenges, and how we can kind of maybe be better at living our lives in the world that we live in from a harmonious standpoint.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. So you're really going in the right track.
Yeah.
Because that's one. My last books have been along that line, and I'm working on a new one now. I've got 15 books out there, and I'm working on 3 more. The one I've got enough material on, I'm going to calling it UFOs, A Different Perspective. Because I'm getting information now that is really explaining things the other ones haven't thought about. So, it keeps growing. We're getting more and more all the time, and we're getting more understanding. That's the important thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer a science fiction for kooks. This is coming of age now. There's more understanding in all of this.
Sure. And I wish there was a way to download that information. You've got 15 books, and all of them look really interesting. I just wish that I could...
more all the time.
Yeah.
There are 20 languages now.
Really wish there was a way I could download that information so I would have the understanding that you have, but I'm sure that's not possible.
So it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
But what are you working on right now? What is your project? If the open files, it said more or less you've got that put together?
Well, we have 2 volumes put together on open files, but we probably have enough material for somewhere between 12 and 20 volumes.
That'd be a lot.
Yeah. So, when we say it's kind of the open files, we came up with that name because really we have this information sitting on the shelf that's, just great interviews. It's literally the interviews from Fastwalkers. So if you like the quality of the Fastwalker interviews, this is literally the same high definition material that we're cutting into, the raw and uncensored, full-fledged interview with each of these guys. That's something that's kind of ongoing. My dad and I have been working on more of a narrative movie script, and it's been a big goal and a dream of mine for a long time to produce an actual movie motion picture, and something that, is more, seems like it's fiction or it's a fiction movie, but has real ideas in it that kind of resonate and translate from the fiction to reality and kind of help with... sci-fi is very interesting just about to everybody, I think. And to take some of those ideas and move forward with, some reality in the narrative, I think makes it really exciting. So.
Well, sometimes you have to go from the fiction angle just to get the person's attention, and they don't really know what you're sneaking in behind the fiction.
Yeah.
That way they don't realize what you're really trying to tell them. They'll say, well, it's only fiction. But, a lot of movies are being made like that right now, a lot of TV series.
Yeah,
we're going more toward the metaphysical.
Absolutely, and I think it's brilliant from the perspective of the producers because it's so interesting, and I think there's so many people right now that have such a great interest in kind of the higher self or the greater the greater potential for mankind, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
But before, even 20 years ago, even probably less than that, people weren't allowed to do things like this because they were afraid of offending the church. The church would come down on them.
Sure.
But I think now that doesn't seem to matter anymore. They are going ahead and doing it, and it's being accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Because you look at the success what the Bleep had.
Yeah.
They were really amazed at that.
Yeah, they had a smashing success. That's for sure. Hey,
everybody thought, nobody's interested in those things. But this shows there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
Oh, wives like to say we're underground.
Yeah.
We're undercover, when people are always afraid to let people know what they're really interested in.
Can I ask you a question, Dolores?
Well, we are the underground anyway. Now it's no longer the underground. We're coming up. Okay.
Yeah. The question I have is, with my father's experience, I was going to ask you if there's any way to tell, from my perspective, if I don't consciously have any memories of any types of, experiences, but I was wondering if there's a way that you can kind of tell or any telltale signs that, you've had any kind of a contact or experience.
Well, I don't know if there's any telltale signs, but I think your interest is one way that it has been sparked by something. Sure. It's on a subconscious level that you don't even realize.
Yeah.
But I'm a hypnotherapist, and I have people coming. I see hundreds and thousands of people. But some of them come and they'll say, I just want to see if I've had a UFO experience. I think it would be neat. I think it would be just fun, And I say, yeah, But I don't like to work with anyone that just want to do it for that reason. Because I say, don't open up that can of worms.
Yeah.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Sure.
Well, a lot of them just think it's exciting or something.
Yeah.
But the ones I think who are really having the experience, they don't really have a lot of memories.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I don't like to work with them unless they're having problems with it, because I'm not out there, looking for sensationalism. I work with them as a therapist. But I would be willing to bet you've had something has had to spark this interest. And
certainly,
it's always better if you don't really know at a conscious level.
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed that your father remembers so much of it.
Yeah. One of the reasons that I asked was because, with the whole Star Child thing and kind of that whole thing, I'm curious if there's any way to know if you're a part of that or, that whole thing. And I've investigated families where they can go back to the child, the parents, the grandparents, going all the way back, and they all have had some kind of experience or contact, but they don't want to talk about it, especially if you get back into the grandparents. Sure. But it's as though it is they're going through the genetic line. It's, being visited and checked on. Sure. The genes are passed down. But I don't know if there's any definite way to say yes, except that I think the interest is there, and that should tell you something. How common would you...
Especially when you're so, convinced it is positive.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you have had an experience, it's been a good one. I can tell you that.
I would believe that, too.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. Just go along with what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming up to the time. I have to stop about 5 till. But you are selling these documentaries, aren't you?
You bet. They're available at fastwalkers.com. They're all available there. So.
What I want you to do, I want you to promote now and tell people how they can find these.
Okay. If you're interested in finding out more information about the movie Fastwalkers that features 35 of the world's top experts, photographed in high-definition video. This is an award-winning presentation. We would love to have you come to fastwalkers.com and check it out. See the movie trailer for yourself there. And also there's a free video clip online for just about almost everybody who's in the program. So you can go there and you can see some free interviews from the people in the movie and check out the movie trailer and see it. If it resonates with you and it's something that interests you, we'd love for you to have a copy. And check out the open files as well if you want more in-depth information. And those will be, as we have more interest, we'll release more of the Fastwalkers open files volumes as well. So check out fastwalkers.com. I'm Anthony Miles. I also have a video production business. That is my primary business. That's Fourth Wall Productions. That's fourthwalltvandfilm.com. If you're interested in making a video or a documentary film or anything like that, please feel free to contact me. I'm a busy guy, but I'm always looking for projects. So
that's it. You're always looking because you never know. I think it's boring whenever you can't find anything. Then you have to stop. It's always good to keep working.
Yep.
That's the important thing. But if they check out your website, they will be able to order online then, can't they?
That's correct. If you go to fastwalkers.com, there's links on there to buy the DVD. There's a link to the Safe Space website on there also if you want more information about that. Featured guests, and all of the different Fastwalkers movies and videos, those are available on there as well. One thing I didn't mention is that we did give a Fastwalkers open files, what we call the Congressional Edition. We gave one of those to everybody in the, I believe, in the Congress and the Senate, and then also in the Canadian Parliament also have all received one of those complimentary, because we really were trying to get the information out and help with the exopolitics movement and help open the world from that.
You mean the ones in Washington, in Congress and the Senate? That's
correct.
Is that what you said? You gave each one of the senators and the representatives a free copy?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that should spark some interest there because, see, I have done radio interviews and lectures in Washington, and I've been approached. They don't want you to know that they're talking to you, but there is an interest there. They just don't make it public. I think that's a very good idea that you've sent that to them.
Yeah, well, we tried.
Okay. All right, well, we're coming to the time I have to sign off here. But I think this has been very valuable information, and it's an honor to have you on the show tonight, Anthony.
Thank you, Dolores. I sure appreciate it, and maybe you can talk to me offline one time about what actually inspired you to call. I'd love to talk about that.
Okay, and I hope everybody's going to be calling in and ordering the movie because it really is good. It's very well professionally done.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so good night, Anthony.
Thanks, Dolores. Have a great night.
And good night, everybody out there.
If you enjoyed the show, check out more of our other videos and be sure to subscribe and click the like button. Thank you for listening to the Metaphysical Hour with Dolores Cannon.